FPL Game Week 8 final team selection decisions. It is finally here. The international break is over and Game Week 8 starts tomorrow morning. In today's video, we're going to have a look at everything you need to know going into Game Week 8. We'll have a look at some key questions like, do we expect SAKA to start? Do we expect Luis Diaz to start? We'll talk about captaincy. We'll talk about injury updates from the press conferences, the best players for you to be buying in your team. We'll have a look at a wildcard draft for anyone finalising it this week. And we'll have a look at my team, what I plan on doing it going into Game Week 8 with 2 free transfers and just under 3 million in the bank as well. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if we are new around here. And this video, of course, has a very quick turnaround. So thank you all for tuning in before the Saturday morning deadline. We're going to dive straight in and talk about the biggest question of the entire week. It is the man that is going to be part of the thumbnail. He'll be, of course, in the title of the video. That is going to be SAKA going away to Bournemouth. Do we expect him to be available and do we expect him to start for Arsenal? Now, we actually got one of the most positive or one of the most sort of transparent updates from Arteta that we've had on an injury in what feels like forever. He said the injury is not serious. He's developing well and we are hopeful that he will be available. I personally predict he starts, and that is partly because Lee Carsley, the England manager, said that he expects Saka to be fine. He thought that it was a chance he could have played last Sunday for the England team, but he didn't want to take a risk. Now, of course, there is a slight bit of doubt. It's not 100% guaranteed, but I would put it at an over 80% chance that he starts going into Game Week 8. They are, of course, playing on Saturday away at Bournemouth, and we might get a little bit of early team news on the deadline stream, so I will be waiting for that. But even if he doesn't look like 100%, I would keep him in your team. I wouldn't be selling him. If I was on wildcard, I would still definitely own him. Don't bench him. Just start him in your team this week. Next up is Luis Diaz. Now, Luis Diaz was benched in Game Week 7 because Liverpool knew how many minutes he was going to play over the international break, and he started both of the games for Colombia. However, I do expect Luis Diaz to start in Game Week 8 against Chelsea. It is a big game, and I expect it to be a fully strength Liverpool lineup, along with Jota starting and along with Salah starting as well as that front three. However, that doesn't guarantee that Luis Diaz will start. It doesn't guarantee that he's a great asset going forward because Gakpo does still offer a bit of a threat on that left wing. He's also unlikely to play more than 70 minutes. It looks like going over minutes so far this season. Plus, they play Champions League this week and then they play Arsenal again next weekend as well. So for me, Luis Diaz is a sell. You don't have to sell him in Game Week 8, but I'd probably be looking to sell him over the next few weeks. In terms of captaincy, we do have Erling Haaland in at number 1. Yes, he hasn't performed over the past couple, but I do still think given the lack of real standout alternatives, I would go with Haaland number 1. SAKA is in at number 2 going away to Bournemouth because it looks like he's going to be available. It's also very, very rare that Saka ever features off the bench for Arsenal. He either starts or doesn't feature at all. Son is back and fit and available for Spurs, so he is in at number 3 at home to West Ham. Salah does have a good record at home against big teams, so we're going with Salah number 4. And then we're going to go with Ollie Watkins number 5. You could put Cole Palmer in here, but he goes away to Liverpool, which I don't love given they've only conceded 2 goals so far this season. So if you own Palmer, I probably wouldn't be captaining him, and that is my top 5. But realistically, it's Haaland, or if you really want to go elsewhere, it's Saka. I don't fancy anyone massively outside of those two. To rattle through a bit of other injury news, of course, we've already spoken about Saka. We have Kevin De Bruyne who's been ruled out, and it doesn't really sound like he's going to make an imminent return to that Manchester City team. Maybe he's back in Game Week 9 or 10, but Pep has almost all but confirmed he'll be out for at least this one and probably won't be starting in Game Week 9 either. Next up is Kai Havertz, who a bit like Saka does have a chance of playing. He has, of course, training this afternoon, and there'll be a little bit on Saturday morning, given they are the evening kickoff on Saturday. I probably predict that Kai Havertz will start again, but if you do want to sell him, Dominic Solanke is the number 1 option I'd probably buy at that price if you have the money. And then we're looking at Spurs. So Brennan Johnson is also fine after getting a slight kick over international duty. Son and Richarlison are also back. They are available. They've been training over the past few days. If you want a punt on Son, 9.8 million, he should be back on that left wing for Spurs. A bit of injury news. The first one is Matt Sells of Nottingham Forest. Just on Nottingham Forest, we're unlikely to see any Morgan Gibbs-White this week or probably between now and the next international break. If you have Gibbs-White, I would be selling him. He has been pictured on crutches in a protective boot. However, Matt Sells has been pictured in the back of training in a photo that was posted of the Nottingham Forest players going out to training. Matt Sells is in the back holding his glove. So it does look positive for him. There was no exact update in the press conference from what I can see, but it does sound positive. Mazraoui, who was taken off in the Manchester United versus Aston Villa game, is declared fit and available after having a heart procedure over the international break, which is incredible, crazy. First of all, hopefully everything is okay, they said a routine heart procedure, but still, to be returning to football in the Premier League a week later is crazy. But if you have him, he is available, and that is good news. Now, another bit of team news, it's not massively important for players we're picking, but I have to put it in here. Reece James is back fit. He is back available. He is ready to play for Chelsea. I'm not certain as a Chelsea fan he'll go straight in and play against Liverpool. He may well be eased in, and we have a difficult run of fixtures. So don't buy Reece James, but he's back fit and available for now. And then looking at some crucial defenders, Mykolenko and Branthwaite both in contention to start for Everton. It looks like Mykolenko is more guaranteed. He has been back training for about a week or so. Nice to see that he is back. He's in my team, and I might well call on him this week. Branthwaite is slightly less certain. He's been out for slightly longer. They're going to tell on Friday and Saturday going into the game whether he's going to be available, but feels like one of those games that's so important to Everton. I expect both Mykolenko and Branthwaite to start. And then we look at Ezri Konsa. There wasn't massive updates from Unai Emery, who is also the one, which is why this video is never as early as I want, because the Aston Villa press conference is always last and he's always late. So it always takes me time to put out this video. But Konsa is feeling good, is what he said. So we should see Ezri Konsa starting for Aston Villa away at Fulham. So with all that in mind, let's have a look at a few players to buy. Despite poor performances over the past couple, we've got David Raya in number 1 and Flecken remains number 2. Again, he goes away to Manchester United this week, but still good long-term fixtures. I've added a number 3 pick because with Branthwaite and Mykolenko back, I do like Jordan Pickford as a potential buy. Goes away to Ipswich this week, but he tends to be good for saves and good for bonus points as well. Moving into defence, Gabriel remains number 1. I still like the Arsenal defence above and beyond all of the others. Rico Lewis in at number 2 as the cheap price, and I much prefer him over Gvardiol. There's no point spending the money on Gvardiol, in my opinion, when Rico Lewis is over $1 million cheaper. And we have a similar story at Spurs. I'm not sure Pedro Porro is worth the money when Van de Ven is over $1 million cheap, well, about $1 million cheaper than him as well. With Maddison and Kulusevski both playing together in that sort of number 10 role, it does really neglect what Porro is allowed to do going forward. So I would just go Van de Ven. I really like Ryan Aït-Nouri. Of course, this isn't massively the week to go and buy him because he has Manchester City. But if you have the ability to bench him for someone like a Mykolenko or a Greaves, I like Aït-Nouri going forward. I also like Leif Davies, but a lot of us have an Ipswich defender, so I would go Van de Ven or I would go Aït-Nouri over him. And then as a bit of a differential punt, I do quite like Dalot. He's good for bonus. He's got some attacking threat. And Man United, for all their flaws at the moment, seem to keep some clean sheets as they are top for clean sheets so far this season. Into midfield, I still have Bukayo Saka number 1, despite that slight yellow flag, as I expect him to be back. Bryan Mbeumo comes in number 2, as I think he's the most essential and best value player, probably in the entire game at the moment. Cole Palmer in number 3. I'm not massively put off by the fixtures, but the fixtures stop him being a number 1 or a number 2 pick. Brennan Johnson in at number 4. Now, I prefer Palmer over Johnson, but of course, there's a big value difference between the two, right? So if you've got Johnson or you don't have the money to go Palmer, that's absolutely fine. I really like Johnson as a buy. I can't quite get to him in my team based on what I could do it. I could do Smith Rowe to Johnson, but based on the transfers I want to make in future weeks, I don't think I can do it. And then McNeil is my favourite of the cheaper ones at the moment. I also like Rodgers. I also like Buonanotte. I don't mind Dibbling, but if I was going for an under 6 million midfielder and I had the choice, I probably would go McNeil given his performances for Everton at the moment. Then moving up front, and it might seem strange, but Delap at 5.6 feels like the best value pick. Where no Gibbs White for Chris Wood does mean I would actually pick Delap over Chris Wood. It means that Chris Wood is even more guaranteed to be on penalties. We already kind of knew that. But it does mean that they're less creative going forward. They're likely to score less goals with a Gibbs White not in the team. So I would go Delap over Wood, and I'd probably put Slanky in between the two of them. Then we've gone with Cunha, and actually from game week 9 onwards, Cunha will probably be the number 1 forward to buy. It's just that Manchester City fixture this week. But they've leaked goals. I don't massively think that should put you off buying Cunha. And then I don't mind Jimenez at a cheaper option, but I probably prefer Delap as a long-term pick over Jimenez or going to Cunha instead. And then a new segment, I thought I'd added it in so far this season, but I obviously haven't. It's just looking at some of the predictions for this weekend, just to put a few of those things we've spoken about into a bit of light. These are from Rob T FPL over on Twitter. Manchester City predicted to score the most goals with 2.5, closely followed by Spurs. and then Liverpool and Arsenal as well. So if you do have Liverpool attackers, you might want to hold on to them. Manchester City with the highest chance of a clean sheet. You've also got a high clean sheet chance for Arsenal, but no real standout clean sheet odds this weekend apart from Manchester City or Arsenal. So no real big defensive moves, which is why if you're looking to buy Nori this week, it's not the end of the world because no one else massively stands out for clean sheet odds outside of Manchester City and Arsenal this week. And then onto a wildcard draft. I feel like I'm absolutely rattling through this video, talking so much, but let's have a look at the wildcard draft. It's basically the same as the wildcard draft I put out earlier on in the week. We've gone with Raya in goal. I would still double up on their defense. Begovic as the cheap backup. You could go Fabianski. You could go for anyone in there. I've gone Begovic just because he is the backup at Everton. And I also I don't plan on tripling up on Everton anytime soon. Gabriel is in there. We've gone with Leif Davies. We've gone with Rico Lewis. And then we've gone with Ryan Nori. And actually, instead of Wout Faz, we've gone with Okoli just because he's 4 million and starting for Leicester instead of Wout Faz, who's gone up for 4.2 million now. Into midfield, we're going with Brian and Burmo, Saka, Palmer, Johnson as your 4 starting midfielders. Semenyo is on the bench, ready for his game week 11 fixture 1, where Bournemouth's fixtures look really, really nice. If you wanted someone better short term, like a Rodgers or a McNeil, that is absolutely fine. If you have the low team value and you want to go to someone down like a Dibbling, that is also absolutely fine. But I quite like Semenyo's fixtures from game week 11 if you can afford him. Then up front, it is Haaland, it is Wood, and it is Delap. There's no space for Dominic Solanke. There's no space for a Kai Havertz. I think that I like Johnson over going for Dominic Solanke. And then you have 2 great forwards in Wood and Delap. And this team, of course, would captain Erling Haaland and vice-captain on Bukayo Saka this week. So let's have a look at my team for game week 8 after those press conference updates. Now, just before we do that, this video is being sponsored by HUEL. HUEL is a complete meal that takes 30 seconds to prepare. And when they messaged me saying they wanted to sponsor the video, I was like, yes, absolutely, because it is a brand and a product I've been using for over 6 years in my own life. I started using it while I was at university because it's affordable, it's really quick to prepare while I was studying and while I was in the library studying for my exams. I would have it as my lunch. Then when I moved to London, I started having their HUEL hot and savoury range if you want something a little bit more substantial. And now when I'm back very busy, like today, I was on the FPL show, then I've got to record this video. I've got a stream in the evening and I'm very busy. I'm now starting having HUEL for my lunch as well. It has 40 grams of protein per serving. It has 26 of your essential vitamins and minerals. It's gluten-free. It's plant-based. It has low sugar in there as well. As I said, it literally takes 30 seconds to prepare. So all you do is you fill up your bottle that you get up to the waterline. You add 2 scoops of the HUEL powder in like this. This is going to be my lunch for today as I haven't eaten yet by time of recording this video. You screw the lid on. Make sure that's on properly so that it doesn't go everywhere. You give it a good shake. And then you are good to go. That is the coffee caramel flavor. I've also got the chocolate. Chocolate is my favorite, but there are loads of flavors for you to choose from depending on what you like. It starts at just £1.68 per meal. If you want to have a look, there is a link in the description. The link's also on screen. You can use the code FPLHarry at checkout as well. Again, if you're very busy and you want something to try it out, of course, it's got the things that we mentioned that you need, like 40 grams of protein and the vitamins and minerals. So check it out. But then having a look again at my team for game week 8. So I spoke about the plan to get Palmer into my midfield in terms of Smith Rowe, and I still think that is what I plan on doing. However, I have looked a little bit more at potential other routes to do it, and I could afford it next week in game week 9 by downgrading Dominic Solanke to Delap and downgrading Mavididi to a cheaper option like Dibbling. Now, I know I've just bought Mavididi, so that's not ideal. It's just then it boils down to which of these 3 is least important. In Palmer, of course, in Trent, and in Dominic Solanke. Which 3? Let me know in the chat. Out of Palmer, out of Trent and Solanke, which is your least priority and which is your biggest priority? At the moment, I still think the plan is, it doesn't look like price changes on Friday at time of recording are going to force me into a transfer. So I would probably just roll the transfer this week, have 3 transfers going into game week 9, and then look to get Palmer in against Newcastle. I don't think I need to force him in going away to Liverpool when Smith Rowe feels like a perfectly good choice. So at the moment, I plan on rolling the transfer still going into game week 8, and I might look at Palmer in game week 9. It is still the plan to find a route to get him. It might just be Slanky that goes next week if I have 3 free transfers, or it could still be Trent as well, because I do like 8 Nori as a pick anyway. Captain is still on Erling Haaland. I don't plan on moving that. If he does well, we'll consider the triple captain in game week 9 at home Southampton, and Saka vice captain this week as well. So that is all for my game week 8 final decisions video. It means that everything and FPL is back, and that also means that the deadline streams are back. We'll be live on Saturday morning at the early hour of 9 o'clock all the way up until the 11 a.m. deadline. We'll be looking for team news on the likes of Bukayo Saka. Of course, Spurs are the early kickoff, looking at Son if anyone's looking to buy that as well. We'll of course be answering all of your questions on that stream as well. But if you want to drop any questions you have about your team in the comment section down below on this video as well, please do. 2,000 likes is the aim. Thank you all so much for watching. 2,000 likes. Subscribe if you're new around here. And I'm off to have my lunch while I edit this video with my HUEL. Have a good one, and I'll see you all very soon.